Hey guys, welcome back to the Natty Scene podcast. I'm going to be rolling these out again, and I'm very excited to be bringing them. The bodybuilding show, or the bodybuilding season, is getting well and truly underway. Shows are coming sort of thick and fast. We're getting pretty deep into the qualifiers now for the 2018 season, so I definitely want to be getting more and more people on the podcast, especially competitors that are featuring heavily in this year's shows, and this guy at the other end of the call is certainly one of them. Definitely want to be looking out for this year. So I'm speaking today with Ben Howard. Ben is a WNBF pro. He's got something that I want, and he's also a very, 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 very good bodybuilder in my opinion. He's not. There's plenty of there's plenty of pros out there in several federations that potentially have gotten pro cards at lower caliber shows and things like that, which they're still pros in their own right, but the way you have to earn it through the UK is especially hard, and I'm sure Ben will maybe speak about that at some point, but it is a very difficult process to earn your pro card through just competing through at UK shows. You either have to win the overall at the UK finals, which is a very hard task, especially for someone like Ben being a middleweight. That was potentially not the way he was going to win it. Or you have to win your class at the amateur worlds, so you go up against everyone else and you win your class there, which Ben did. An awesome opportunity to speak to Ben. So Ben, for anyone that sort of doesn't know about you, I guess just give us a little bit of a background. Who you are and potentially sort of what you got, how you got into the sport initially. That would be great.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me on it, AJ. So I've been competing this will be my 4th season, but over the course of 10 years.
Sure.
I first started as a junior like yourself at 19. I'm going to be 29 this year. I've just kind of made my way through the rank. Every few years competed onto the novice Britain UKDFBA.
Sure.
I won that in 14, and then on to 2016. Had a really good year. As you said, I won my qualifier, which I was kind of bowled over. Just that was the goal, to win my class at the qualifier.
Do you take the overall of that show?
I did, yeah. That was the Heart of England in 16, and that was the first time I actually really started believing in maybe my capabilities as a natural bodybuilder.
Took that long, jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy, really. 'Cause it's such a self-critical sport, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Then went on to the finals, won that as well, and earned a place on the UK team. Lee, a great friend of mine, and he put me on the team. Won the middleweight title, but competed at the Worlds as a lightweight, because the weight splits were a little bit different there. So that was actually in my favour.
What's the difference, Ben, out of interest?
I weighed half a pound difference between the two.
Okay.
So I can't, off the top of my head, I think the cut-off there was a guy that was a couple of kilos heavier than me.
Right.
At the Worlds, but there was also I think there was a guy that was 3 kilos heavier than me at the UK as well.
Ooh, okay.
So
maybe it's like 160. Maybe it's like low 160s at Worlds, because I know it's 154 at obviously the Britain being 70 kilos for a lightweight.
Yeah.
And then it's 70 to 80
what they
for
actually
middle.
do at the Worlds is they take everyone on the day and they just kind of split it into thirds, which is good. So that they make it really even. They do that in the pros as well.
I
so
see.
that it actually changes from year to year. Okay. You can have somebody who's a middle one year and is right at the bottom of the middles or at the top of the lights. So you can't aim for an exact number.
Yeah.
But that was a fantastic trip, and that that is the pinnacle so far of my competition. Won the world title. I came second in the overall, and the top 2 were winning their WNBF pro cards.
I see. That's how it worked that year, is it? Okay.
Yeah. The year before, I think it was top 3. Can't quite remember how they worked that out, but it was something based on the amount of competitors in there, and being they wanted to give every world champion a pro card, but some classes were smaller, etc. So it's usually 1, 2, or 3 maximum, depending on the amount of competitors in the amateur show. So and then this year going to be competing as a pro for the first time. So in the Pro International, the UKDFBA, that's 11 weeks from now. And then the Worlds 4 weeks after. Super excited for both of those.
Yeah, but
it's such a different mindset. It's almost, you have to, really, you have to be the best in the country to get on that plane to LA. The caliber is so high. As a pro, there's almost no pressure because, competing at the UK's biggest pro show, you've earned that already.
Yes.
And that it's fantastic. Most of the time, it's 3 sessions a week. So,
Jesus,
it always has been.
That's mad. So
crazy, isn't it?
I'm interested. I mean, we'll just flow into things and see how it takes us. But I'm interested. Like, have you tried higher frequencies of training, and what do you tend to sort of see happen when you go up to higher frequencies?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started training, like anyone really eager, I did a typical bro split, and I was training 6 days a week, if not every day, for the first 6 months. So it wasn't really, serious squats, deadlifts, etc. But it was training every day, and it just felt run down. My recovery's always suffered if I really hit the heavy compounds frequently. I can never train more than about 2 days in a row. I don't know if that's just me.
It's mad.
But I've always been like a high intensity kind of guy.
Yeah,
I've
seen your training clips.
Yeah, and I think when I first started training, I trained. I'd probably not heard of this type of training, but called Max OT.
I think I've heard of that from what's his name? I think one of the 3DMJ guys. I think Brad Loomis followed that initially when he started. What's the guy who made Max OT popular? Wasn't he a natural?
So there's 2 guys, Jeff Willett and Skip LaCour as well.
Yeah,
and they were kind of the guys. They're both IFBB pros, supposedly natural. And I mean, I believe they're natural. I've spoke to both of them before.
Sure.
And they natural back then. You could take pro hormones and some other kind of, is it GABA or whatever it's called?
GABA.
Yeah.
Wow.
And things that are probably not in WADA standards now.
Sure.
And but they were phenomenal, and they used to train that way. And that was kind of, they last competed in 2003, and they were shredded and big back then.
Yes.
Jeff Willett's the same height as me, is 5'7", and he competed at 200 pounds, shredded as well.
Wow.
Great genetics, and just the most kind of humble guy to talk to as well. He's just a quiet, kind of Christian kind of guy from this little town in Michigan.
Oh, amazing.
And he's one of those guys that just wouldn't ever touch drugs or anything like that. So
yeah, sure.
But they used to do this like low volume. It was something like big muscle groups would get 6 kind of sets per week.
Okay.
Just straight sets to failure and progressive, and that's kind of how I adopted my training. And then I know Brad Loomis, he is sponsored by AST. I think he's still sponsored by AST.
I think he is, yeah.
They made the Max OT program, and they sponsored those other guys as well. And it just kind of built from there. And I saw those guys. I was like, there's no way. I read the whole program, and I remember the program. I printed that out, and it was like this thick. And I read it, and it was just like, it made sense. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to roll with that.
Sure.
And then quite a few people on the natural scene in the UK were doing that sort of training as well. John Harris, who I kind of came across first. He was the first natural bodybuilder I ever heard of. In fact, I knew of natural bodybuilding before I even looked into bodybuilding.
Oh, wow.
It was strange. I found, the Natural Muscle Forum that I still post on today.
Yeah.
That was me as a 15-year-old lad going, I want to look like a bodybuilder on Google, and how do I do this? And then stumbled across this guy, and I was like, fuck, like, this guy can do this without drugs, and he looks like that, and he's the same sort of height as me, and same sort of build, and he just trains and eats, and it's simple.
Yeah.
And that, I much preferred that, and I still do prefer that look, that natural look of kind of with clothes on, look kind of normal, but you look like you train and then get shredded, and it's game over.
Yeah.
I preferred that over these big meatheads that were walking around the gym.
I agree. Yeah,
I still do today. The guys at the top of the natural game, I much prefer that look than the guys at the top of the Olympia game.
Yeah.
As freaky as it is, and it's great as a
spectator.
It's great to watch. It's kind of fascinating. For an everyday kind of, it's not worth consuming your whole life, and that's kind of what I believe. Yeah,
sure.
And another guy as well, Mark Oakes, he's just kind of retired, hasn't he? But he trains that way. Sure. 2 heavy work sets to positive failure, 2 or 3 exercises per muscle group, just at 1 frequency per week.
Sure.
Still does that now. He's done it all through his career, and I remember seeing him at one of the first bodybuilding shows I ever went to. It was the MPA, I think it was the MPA Heart of England. Yeah. And he was the 2005 British champion, the year I got into natural bodybuilding, and he was the guy, and he was just rock hard, small, kind of with a shirt on, again 5'7", 5'8".
Sure.
But it just looked freaky, and I thought, heavy, basic exercises all the way. And these guys that were kind of ballooned up next to him, they didn't look as hard, and I think there's something to be said for that. When you get these guys that are squatting, deadlifting, pressing silly weights, year in, year out, and they just have this crazy look on stage.
Yeah, I must agree. There is cause meets correlation there kind of happening. I do agree with that. I think the density of the physiques it just has a different look.
Yeah,
it has a different look when they dark down.
Yeah, the tape measure is kind of the same, but you could have a 16-inch arm that's ballooned up, and one that I always used to think, and when I looked deep into it, I always thought it was the type of muscle growth that you had, the fast twitch versus the slow twitch,
more
sort of thing.
More genetic based kind of thing.
Yeah. In reality, it's how lean you get.
Yeah.
But I think that, it's too much of a coincidence to say, that heavy basic weights just don't have that look, and they always kind of tend to. Maybe it holds onto tissue better when you're dieting. Who knows?
Maybe, yeah. Do you still feel there's an element of pressure being a pro? And do you also feel like, I think when people look at your stage shots from 2016, they'll know the caliber of conditioning you brought, and it was like there was pretty much like you really wouldn't be removing any more body fat off of that.
No.
Do you feel that overwhelming pressure of that's the standard you've set, and now you've kind of got to match that at least, or beat it from that standpoint?
Yeah, there's an element of that. I mean, I would never compete unless I was better than I was before.
Sure.
Hence, I never compete 2 years in a row or anything like that. I always have at least 2 years off.
Yeah.
And it's just the belief that you will be better is kind of enough to really push you all the way. But there is that. There's that pressure. I would never want to. It would be soul destroying to go through a whole contest prep. You know what it takes. Puts a lot of pressure on the body, and obviously all the people around you as well.
Yeah.
So to do all that and then turn up and then just be like, nah, he was not as good as he used to be.
Yeah.
That would propel you, backwards pretty far. So, there's a little bit of pressure, but at the same time, I know that everybody who I'm going to be competing against is a world champion or won a pro show or a seasoned pro, and there's almost no. I'm competing to win all the time, but
of course,
there's no pressure to, I know I'm a brand new pro as opposed to a good amateur.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes sense. And from the off-season perspective, in terms of having the consistent year out between competition, do you find that hard at all? Do you really enjoy the process of prep more than you enjoy the off-season, or do you enjoy both and don't really find it that hard to take time off?
I mean, training wise, I only train 3 or 4 days per week, so I'm never demotivated to train. I'm always fresh. I'm always ready, and I love my training. It's always going to be a part of me, whether I'm, on holiday, whether I'm at home. It's just what I enjoy doing. My time, and it's a bit of therapy, really, as well.
Yes.
It's time away, and that 1 hour you can absolutely crush it, pour everything into it, and accomplish something. There's no other feeling like it. So training is fine. And after my last contest, I've never been as motivated. knowing that I can compete as a pro now, and I know it's game on. You've really got to. Every day counts. As you know, you are smashing every day yourself at the moment now. After your Worlds win, you know that every meal is another step towards that title, that pro card.
Yeah.
And every training session really counts. Every rep counts that other people aren't going to be doing. There is that element. As an amateur, you know that there's going to be people that are turning up just to, put it on their Instagram, or just to, tell their friends that they're a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
But at the pros, they've lived it for decades. And they're the best.
Yeah.
But in terms of diet, we'll go into that. I struggle in the off season, especially after a grueling prep. In the past, I mean, my last prep after the Worlds, I looked really good at the Worlds. I was lean, shredded,
lean.
glutes.
Yeah, lean is the wrong fucking word, man.
I was ready for that contest,
Emaciated.
and then I gained over 2 stone of body fat in less than 10 days. And that's not me saying,
shit,
no,
dude.
it was water. No, it was fat. I consumed upwards of 15,000 calories per day after that. No word of a lie. If anyone that was in LA at the time, I was waddling around like bloated. I had to sit down in between stops at different restaurants and stuff. It was just cramming food in, and it was really, really bad. And I've made it a point this year, as important as the prep itself is the rebound afterwards, is the recovery.
It's just not healthy, dude.
Oh man, no. And I spent the first 6 months battling to get back into a healthy mindset and into a healthy kind of routine.
Yeah,
I knew all about the recovery diet and the reverse diet, and lots of different ways you can do it healthily. But I just went crazy in LA for a few days, and then I went on an all-inclusive holiday for a week with the family.
Oh,
and
awful
it was
idea.
buff. But I'm not going to be doing that again directly after a show. You need to be in a good mindset before you can smash a buffet and say, "Oh, that's enough." Yeah. But it was basically like filling up to the point of having to lie on a sun lounger to digest food to get back to the buffet. It was like that for a week, and it was messy.
And do you ever see that sort of relationship with food ever transfer a little bit into your prep? And do you find ever it difficult to, maybe adhere to the diet and things like that? I mean, at the end of the day, you got into the best condition that a lot of people have ever laid their eyes on, mate. So it's not like you struggled to get into condition, but have you ever had phases in your diet where you thought, fuck, I really can't hold off eating food at this point?
Because of the obsessiveness of diet, like I don't deviate from a plan. It's I have my meals, I eat my meals. It's very easy to weigh foods out and track them and everything else, and I find that super easy. Sure. Like not there's hard days and everything else, but like
you're quite regimented, aren't you, with the way that you approach
very
food?
Much so. And I do struggle when the handcuffs are off a little bit.
Sure.
It does get better, and I think it is that period of when you're deprived straight to when the handcuffs are off. That's the problem area for a lot of people. It's not deep in the off season when you haven't really got an appetite anyway. It's not contest prep when you're focused on a goal. It's when you've got no clear goals or short term goals. And it's free for all, know. But I think something like a recovery period, almost treating it as part of the prep, is really important. The end of season's like, November for most people. At least to the end of the year, have a real structure, even if it's too obsessive. Just a bit of structure to get your head straight again, and get healthy. And then start, you can relax a little bit then.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, to talk on my, previous approaches, I've done the whole binge. I've done the whole gain a little bit too much weight. Yeah. And I think for me, Ben, what was the difference when I finished this prep my 2017 prep, was I had the weight of all the people that had followed my prep and I just knew I really didn't want to fuck it up.
Yeah, I'm so glad you didn't, because you've got such a following as well, and there's a lot of young guys that are maybe prepping for the first time, even this year.
Yeah.
And they are gonna, want what you got last year. They're gonna aim for the same thing, and if they can see how you finished the prep, in the way that you did, and you were super kind of cool with it all. I remember seeing like these posts of you going like, right, no, I've done with it now. I'm gonna bin, and then it would be like a bowl of oats, and I'm like, yes, AJ's done it. Like every day, consistency. And it was for a long time after your prep, wasn't it? Before you even decided to push your body weight up at all.
It was. I mean, I did initially bump up a little bit just to enjoy the time that I spent in the States, so I could actually just sort of walk around functionally and feel like relatively alive. But that was the best part of 3 pounds, and that was enough.
Yeah.
That was enough to get me feeling okay. And then it was only when I got home and the euphoria started to come away a little bit that when I realised that 3 pounds was certainly not enough to make me feel good.
No, at the time though, like when you gain a few hundred calories, it feels like you're overeating. You realise really like
guilty.
no, there's a lot more. Yeah. But no, it was so controlled, and fair play to you. I mean, my first ever prep was very similar to my last one. Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, and I gained a few stone. But I'm a fat kid. I gain weight easy, really easily. But I'm greedy. I can put a lot of food away.
Sure.
No problem eating 10,000. I see these 10,000 calorie cheat meals, and I think
too easy.
It's no problem at all. But
I mean, I think that your ability to eat, especially in an off season, is actually like that's kind of a good thing, because I've seen so many people. I have clients that I work with as well that get to a point and they're still fairly lean. They've got room to grow, and they've just run out of room from an appetite perspective. No matter how well you structure their day, or anything like that, they run out of room, and some people just have really poor appetites.
Yeah, I feel for those people, especially if they've had a situation in the past where maybe they've kind of restricted too much, and then they just don't have an appetite anymore.
Sure.
We've all seen people that have been on the doing shitloads of cardio in the off season and not eating any carbs and stuff. Like it's still popular in the gyms today.
Yes.
And and before you know it, you bump their calories up to 2,000, and they're struggling. And you're like, come on, man, you got loads of room to grow.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your methodologies sort of behind prep, and the diet approach and how you approach sort of expenditure as well. For people to have a bit of a background, I've followed Ben's forum on Natural Muscle for a long time, and I was reading it a lot when I was prepping, as well as a little bit of motivation, because you do discuss the bad days with the good days on there, which is great for someone to read. But so let's approach your general ideas behind diet and how it's potentially changed over the last sort of 10 years really of competing. What you initially started with, and maybe what you've found optimal now in this prep. I know that you've made some slight adjustments, especially with ratios in this prep, that have been a little bit different to past preps. So if you could just discuss that, would be great.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Lee Kemp, the president of the UKDFBA, right when I first started training, really.
Yeah, he was telling me about this the other weekend.
Yeah, the guy has probably told you some stories. But yeah, he's took me under his wing, from day one. I remember going to my first ever bodybuilding show, really nervous and thinking, like, what the hell? In fact, I live about 2 minutes from where that venue is now. And I remember meeting Lee, because Lee was on the forum, the Natural Muscle Forum, and that's where I stumbled across natural bodybuilding.
Sure.
And he put this post up about this local show, the Mr. Coventry show.
Yeah.
I thought, oh man, that's just up the road. I'll go check it out. And it's basically, you had to be training in a gym in Coventry or the surrounding area, and you could enter the show. So I went there and I met Lee, and basically he took me under his wing from that day and said, man, you should do this show, next year do it. And yeah, it was the year after that I competed. He helped me with my prep, and from day one he's kind of taught me the old school way to eat, to train, for bodybuilding.
Yep.
You know, knowingly, he's seen thousands of people prep for shows, and fads come and go, and he sticks with the bare basics really.
Yep.
Same with his training as well. I've had Lee put me through numerous training sessions, and they're always growers. You're always walking away thinking, yeah, man, that did it. And he's always got a trick up his sleeve. So my first ever prep, very similar to what I'm doing now. A base diet that you can kind of follow and enjoy. I'm not a massive follower of the flexible diet. I think it's great flexible dieting for someone that's wanting to lose a little bit of body fat.
Sure, general population.
Really, really good, and really good knowledge for people that think that carbs are going to kill you and fats are Yes. It just teaches people a lot, okay, and people can learn what's in their food, etc. But for someone who's wanting to go to extremes, really extremes, and let's face it, unhealthy levels of body fat, you need to be pretty on the ball with everything that goes into your body. And personally, I'm not one to sit and track food every day and work out what I can and can't eat. I like to have my meals set out days in advance, cook a big batch of food, and just grab and go as you go, for days on end, and then do the same again. There's no thought process behind it. I generally, a very typical diet, 5 to 6 meals per day, enough protein, enough fats, and then as much carbohydrate as I can get away with.
Yeah.
And then, when it's time, I've got to cut down some more carbs to get some more body fat off. Down they come. Because there's no room to take out any more fat. There's no room to take out any more protein. It's just shaving down those carbs, get as lean as humanly possible a couple of weeks before the show, and then just cruising, eating maintenance. Job done.
Sounds pretty much picture perfect. I think what you say there, and what I'd like to maybe highlight is the thought process that you are removing from the meals and the eating, etc. Because I think what a lot of people do, especially with the more flexible approach, is they I know I've been there, done that. 2015 was a very flexible contest prep for me, and my food focus was ridiculous. I'd think about what I could fit in on this day. I'd spend all day on bloody MyFitnessPal. But, I've seen it on your forum. Like, if you make a change, your change is reduction of something from one meal. And that's it. That's all you do. You don't even look at, my macros or MyFitnessPal. No. You just, a reduction from a meal, that's it. And then the next day... simple. Yeah, the next day you grab that meal from the fridge and it seems like the same meal. It's just 10 carb less, 20 carb less.
You don't even realise until one day... you're sitting eating your meal at work and someone goes, why haven't you got any rice today? And you're like, I've been shaving it down the last few months. It's as simple as that. I mean, I look to lose, you pace yourself in to not peak too early. I may have peaked a little bit early this year. You come in and you want to lose half a pound or a pound a week. And if you don't hit that weight, you take a little bit of food out. And it's a little bit, it might be 20 grams of carbs or something like that. It might be a little bit of fat if you've got some fat to spare. It doesn't really matter. You've just got to very slowly be in a deficit, and then progressive overload is maintained. And those two things in combination, that's just when the magic happens. If you're getting stronger and getting lighter slowly, it's
perfect.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Have you experimented with different amounts of weight that you've lost over prep? So, for example, have you in one prep lost a large amount of weight in sort of one slog, and then in other preps have you sort of gotten off a bit of weight and then done the rest in another phase? How have you sort of set up preps from a weight loss perspective?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I met Lee in 2007. He was like, be the teenage competitor in the Mr. Coventry the next year. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And he gave me some brilliant advice, diet and training. And this is the only time when I didn't listen to him. And I was doing fasted cardio first thing in the morning, training with weights 6 days a week in the evening, zero carb, chicken and broccoli every 2 hours, like set your alarm, just complete bro. Like I couldn't be more bro. And it's, I lost a lot of weight very quickly and looked like crap. Like I didn't even look like I trained. And I was like, I didn't even look leaner. I think I just looked like I was gaining body fat. I must have lost muscle so quick. Yeah. And I remember going to the gym. I used to bus to the gym. I used to get home from school or college. And I just used to jump on a bus. And I think it was 2 hours to the gym. And I could barely stay awake on the bus. And then I'd walk on the other end for like half an hour, walk to the gym. Wow. Then I'd get to the gym, I'd have nothing left, and then I'd walk home, and it would take me all evening to go to the gym. Little did I know there was a decent gym just around the corner.
Oh my God.
Yeah, what an idiot. But I took this bus route, and it used to take me, I used to leave at 4 o'clock, come back at 10 at night, and I'd only train for an hour and a half. And I remember doing that and just being wiped out, couldn't even lift a weight when I was there, and I just pulled the plug on that prep. And then Lee said, this is why I gave you the advice that I gave you. And I was thinking, right. And then since then, I've just listened to him. And he almost knows me better than I know myself. Yeah. Especially during the depths of prep. When, 1 week before the Heart of England last time I was competing, he came round to my house and had a look at me and was like, yep, you could step on stage right now and you'd probably win. And I was like, oh, no. And I was like, I was ready to tell him that I'm ready to pull the plug on this prep because I thought that I looked terrible or felt terrible. And he was like, there's no way you're not going to be a champion by the end of this year in some capacity. And it was like, what are your expectations? I was like, I want to, get top 3 in my qualifier class, weight class. And he was like, right, we'll just, turn up next week then. And he just knows, he doesn't beat around the bush, Lee. He's just like, you never try and get sympathy off Lee. He won't.
Has he ever told you you're behind or you don't look good or anything like that?
No, never. No, no. I get ready early. Yeah. I tend to. I don't get massively heavy in the off season. I do initially, and then it comes back down a little bit. But
where do you sort of hover?
I think 82 kilos. I compete at 74-ish.
Oh, okay.
So
less than 10 kilos.
Yeah, and I think the first 1 to 2 kilos comes off pretty quick. Yeah, and then I start looking. It's like that. Those 2 kilos transforms me from just an off-season guy but doesn't look like he trains to. The waist comes down so much in that 2 kilos. Yes. Yeah. And then just everything's starting to come together really quickly. And now I'm at 77. I'm starting to see glutes. The backs come in pretty much, and it just comes together so quick. Yep. But then for me to get the glutes properly in, hamstrings properly in, it's a slog all the way now. Yes. I'm going to need every week, every pound, and I almost lose a little bit of fullness upper body as well. But that's just genetics for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I can totally relate with the whole transformation very fast thing. Because I think whenever you're in a surplus, even if it's gradual and slight surplus, you just carry a film of crap and you just don't look as good. And then even within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of dieting, you regain some of that insulin sensitivity back. You eat a carbohydrate meal, and instead of feeling a bit sleepy, you actually feel like, fuck, let's go. Let's get a good pump on. That's the one thing about the off season that gets a bit monotonous is just. You actually kind of feel a little bit better when you're first month or so into dieting.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that first, when you're just maybe approaching single digit body fat or maybe, low teens, you feel real healthy. Everything's firing. You still got your strength. You're starting to look lean, and there's that nice balance. But that's not the best environment to build muscle. No, as we know, we need to be a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. In a good surplus. Yeah. And it's funny actually. I've never once, being the rebounds I've had after preps, I've never once had a structured off season to the point of I've never, gained a little bit of weight, after a show and then been in a calorie surplus. No, I've literally binged out, been in a big surplus, and then tried to crawl it back for 6 months. Found a bit of a kind of, a ground where I'm maybe a stone and a half over, and then I'm a bit happier then. So
I'd be really intrigued to see what would happen if you structured that phase.
This is what I'm going to do this year. Is I've made it priority to really, just do things properly in the off season from day one. Set yourself up as well.
Yeah, for sure. So we spoke a little bit about training already in terms of your approaches and methodologies there. In terms of when you're in a diet and a deficit phase, I know you're a huge fan of doing the basics, doing your squats, deadlifts, bench press, etc. Do you find that any of those movements start giving you a little bit less bang for their buck? Do you find that any leverages start to change like in a poor fashion that makes a squat really uncomfortable or a bench press not so beneficial, things like that when you're really lean?
Yeah, I think so. In the latter stages, take a squat, for example, your waist is super thin, super small, and you're wearing this belt that's really uncomfortable, and you feel wobbly all over the place. Your squat weights are way down from the off season. It's really off-putting, and almost every rep feels a bit of a grinder. But I think that's pretty normal the last few weeks, and I have in the past gone, I'm just going to stack that leg press, and I'm going to feel like locked in, and I can just get the job done there. But that's once or twice, and I've just kind of thought, no, it's not doing the same thing. There's something about a squat, something about a deadlift that just holds onto that tissue. And I know that 90% of people, when they have that decision, 3 weeks out, they're going to go, nah, we're going to go for a hack squat. And I want to be that guy that's going, no, I'm going to be lifting, I'm going to be trying to go for my off-season PB. Like, why not? Why not? And sometimes you surprise yourself, and you just do. You just fire up on that day. As long as it's not unsafe, and you're rounding over during deadlifts and stuff, just to try and stay strong on them. You're not deadlifting then, really, are you? But,
sure. Yeah.
No. I every lower body session, squats and deadlifts.
Okay.
Every upper body session, heavy benching, heavy barbell rows, and I don't compromise with that at all.
Yeah.
I don't swap them in for hammer strength machines or any machines for that matter. It's heavy basics, and I think something to be said for people that heavy barbell lifts to build that density. When you do diet down, you then stand out.
Yeah. I do agree, and I think in this day and age, I mean, even with myself now, with the wealth of knowledge out there and differing knowledge, it's quite easy to get distracted with new movements that can look beneficial, but in reality, are they actually, for the gain in slight stimulus that you're getting, are you actually dropping out an exercise that just from an overall body composition perspective is better? And also from like a movement perspective, I think being able to squat, deadlift and bench and OHP really well is just great from an overall movement perspective.
Definitely.
If you run like a hack squat for a period of time and you go back to squatting, your squat pattern is all over the shot.
It takes a long time to get back.
Yeah, you're used to being on something that does the movement for you. It holds you into the movement for you.
Which, sometimes it's okay, and especially think like around injuries, and if people have certain, I'm built to squat. I'm quite short. I'm only 5'7". Squatting comes naturally to me. Deadlifts maybe not so much, but I've always deadlifted from day one, and that's why it feels natural to me. Benching, short leverages, brilliant. Yeah, that's good for me. And barbell rows, I just feel great with them. Overhead pressing with a barbell, heavy dips, they all kind of suit. There are certain movements, and more so things like the hack squat and the leg press that I just don't get on with as much. I've got really bad ankle flexibility, and things like a hack squat, I end up trying to come up on my tiptoes, and it just doesn't work for me. So I think practicing those movements over the last 10 to 15 years, you just find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Going into a little bit... Actually, I had a question on training. Someone asked it on Instagram as well. What exercise do you think built your glutes the most?
Yeah, I knew that one was coming. So I've always had big glutes. I remember walking around at school, as a kid, massive ass, just walking around disproportionate, and in the off season it's terrible. I'm trying to find trousers. I've got quite a small waist. Even in the off season, I'm like 34-inch waist maximum.
Wow.
And then trying to find trousers that fit is terrible.
Yeah.
And I'm short as well, so I'm having to wear flares. It's really bad walking around in shorts all day. Squats, deadlifts, leg pressing. I don't do any isolation for glutes.
Wow.
I just don't unless you've got weak glutes. There is no need.
Yes,
if you're squatting with the intensity that you train at, how are you not engaging your glutes?
You're gonna have to do something.
You can't take your glutes out of a squat. You're very, very hard to do a barbell squat without firing your glutes up. Same with heavy leg pressing, heavy deadlifts, and those three movements. I would be happy if I could only do those three movements for lower body, maybe some calf raises in there as well. That would be adequate, and I would keep progressing. That you don't need much more than that. I think maybe a knee flexion, some sort of leg curl. That's it. Anything more than that is just kind of fluff. It's 1% here and there.
Sure, absolutely, that makes sense. I think the main point to take away from that is you were gifted good pair of glutes. And I think from a dieting down standpoint, and actually getting them striated, the way that you've got them striated is very much down to, obviously, one, removal of body fat, but two, the amount of tissue that you do have there. It's a lot of people can, well, actually, very few people can get as lean as you need to see that. But when people do get there, if they don't have the glute tissue, they will just not have the glutes.
Exactly. There. You can't striate body fat. Nothing. You've got to have a lot of tissue there, and that goes for anyone with a freaky body part. It's because they've got a lot of muscle there. It's not because they've trained it a certain way or dieted a certain way. No. I think glutes are one of those things that it's the standard now, isn't it? To have striated glutes. If you're on a competitive stage with no glutes, you're not going to do well. Yeah. Judges will look and wait for you to turn around, and then they start judging. These days, they don't. It's not the only factor, but it's a big one. Yeah. It shows how lean you are. So I just think you got to keep digging, and even if you got to lose a bit of size, you're going to look bigger for it, because you're going to be leaner. Yeah. And you got to keep that strength up in the basic lifts, and keep that deficit going until they're there. Yeah, absolutely. Out of interest, is there anyone in the sport that you mentioned a few at the start, being John Harris, Skip LaCour, etc., that you got training principles off and sort of looked up to a little bit, but is there anyone in the sport, maybe now or in the past, that you have sort of a little bit of inspiration from or looked up to at all? What a question! So many, man, so many. I'm still a kid when it comes to bodybuilding. I still think there's a secret out there. I still look and get inspired by people competing. The list is huge. It's huge, but just taking the local guys. I train at Rich Gozdecker's gym. Oh, okay. I see the guy on a daily basis, and the guy is the one of the best bodybuilders, one of the best guys out there in the sport. Yeah. Such a humble guy, down to earth, hard working. You won't find many people working that hard in the gym. In fact, when I was training legs just the other day, he was there having just a tickle, he said. But he was like hack squatting. I can't even remember what weights it was. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to take it easy today." And he ended up doing like a 5-drop set into. His volume is like so fucking unbelievable. 1,000 rep leg workouts, and then like barely breaking a sweat as well. Legs on him are ridiculous. Even now, like off season, bit injured, like he's a freak. So Rich Gozdecky definitely is one of the guys at the moment that you can't help but be inspired. Of course. John Harris, who our first, it was the first natural bodybuilder that I ever came across. And again, a great guy to talk to, very humble, very down to earth. And pro world champion as well. I was like, man, that's crazy, and is from the UK, before many WNBF pros were around in the UK. Can you remember Rob Hope back in the day?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, Rob Hope, Nigel Davis.
Yep.
And then obviously the guys in the BNBF now, which David Kay, Nate Williams, Mark Claxton, loads of guys. Mark Oakes. The list goes on, man.
Yes,
but yeah, anyone who's got that kind of that leanness with a lot of muscle, it's just crazy. Yeah. And then there's all the Americans as well. You got guys like Brian Whittaker, Doug Miller. Man, there's so many, and that's why I love this sport, man. They're normal people, normal guys. If you talk to them, they're just family guys that work hard, and they've got this hobby that they just excel at. Yeah, and that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I love about it as well. Whenever you meet them, you're kind of shocked that you can just pretty much just get on with them like anyone else you'd speak to. But from my perspective, like when I meet someone like that, I just feel like I'm talking to a celeb.
Yeah, I remember my first ever bodybuilding show, going up to these guys like full of adrenaline, like, oh my god, is that John Harris? No way! And like you recognise them all, and they what they must have thought with this kid walking up to him, just be like, hi John, can I get a picture with you? And he was just like, yeah, man, and have my number. That's fine. Have my number, and we'll hook up and train one time. And nervous wreck meeting all those guys for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's the plans? Well, what's the actual goal for this year? Let's sort of wrap up and finalise on what you kind of want to achieve out of this year. Obviously, the first year competing as a pro. What is your general perception on what you want to achieve by the end of the year?
By the end of the year, okay. So, first year as a pro. I'm in it to win it now. There isn't any, training for a top 3 anymore. I'm training to be the best. Every session, every meal is to be the best. It's not to get top 3 anymore. Yeah. So I'm going to be competing at the Pro International, the UKDFBA, in October, and then November at the WNBF Worlds. Realistically, there are I know if I come away from the Worlds and I got top 5 in the lightweight class, if I compete as a lightweight, it may be a middleweight, see how it lands. Yeah. I would still be happy, but I'm training to win, and the same goes for the Pro International in the UK as well. Yeah. I mean, just looking at the lineup at the UK, you've got 3 guys that are runners up at the Worlds. Previous run. You got Damien Lees. Yep. You've got Thomas. Can't pronounce his surname.
Rasmussen.
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you've got Italian fella as well who came second to Brian Whittaker a few years back.
Yep.
I
did
think
he
all
do the
3
UK
of those
last year?
He did. Yeah.
Yep.
He did. He came a little bit. He looked fantastic, but there was another Italian guy that beat him, the shorter guy.
Okay, I might be getting mixed up.
And they switched the placings over at the Worlds that year. But just phenomenal physiques. We're so lucky to have a show like that in the UK.
Be great to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the goal this year. Obviously, I've got loads of personal goals. I've got our second child on the way in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
So that is obviously at the the forefront. That is priority, and so excited. We haven't found out what we're having, but we're just dead excited.
Yeah.
Our 3-year-old as well is so excited. She's started a new nursery, and just family life so cool.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah, then you've got work aspirations and stuff as well, and of course I've put priority on not letting all of this affect the family dynamic as well. Training just 3 to 4 times per week and not being too crazy with diet and just eating kind of normal and sitting down with family and eating. It's really important. I made that a goal, a physical written goal, and obviously the rebound as well. It doesn't have to be 6 months of struggling, to regain lost time. It's just back to business, back to off-season training, enjoy it.
Yes.
And that's kind of my year, how I want it to land.
Epic. Well, I'm sure you'll tick you'll tick all over those boxes, man. I'm sure.
Yeah, man.
And it'll be great to follow. So, for anyone that wants to follow you elsewhere, I know that you post pretty frequently on Instagram now and again. You'll definitely get more up there when you're prepping, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
So what's your Instagram name? Do you know?
Yeah, so Ben Howard WNBF Pro.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, you'll find me on there. Any questions anyone's got about any of the training, nutrition, anything in general, I get a few people, DMing on there and just asking odd questions.
Yeah. I bet.
It's fine, no problem at all. It's how I got into the sport in the first place. I was on Natural Muscle Forum as well, where you can find me. Yeah. I've got like a blog on there that I update every few days with my prep,
cool.
And it goes way back to I think 4 or 5 years as well. So
yeah, it does. Yeah.
You can see what I was doing a few years ago as well. But you can ask me on there, have a look, see what I do, how I train, how I diet. It's all pretty simple stuff, to be fair. It's that old consistency is key, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm so glad that people can hear it, dude, because I bet there's at least one person that would listen to this podcast and think WNBF Pro, think some special secret is going on, and the reality is it's really not. It's just 10 years of hard work, dedication, consistency. Is what it is. So mate, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me on.
Really do appreciate it, matey. I know you're a busy man. You got lots going on, family life, etc. But I'm sure we will catch up soon. We'll potentially get Ben on again at some point, maybe closer to the show. I know we're just under 12 weeks out now, so maybe a little bit closer. We'll see how Ben's getting on and give us a little bit of an update. But for now, guys, make sure to share this around the natural community. Get people listening to it, and we'll be back hopefully next week or the next couple of weeks with another guest. And chat soon. Cheers, Ben.
Cheers, man.